In the vastness of the universe, every billion years a new celestial is born, and they are the most powerful energy producers in existence. The supreme celestial, Ereshkigal, scattered seeds of creation across countless galaxies and planets. And Earth was chosen as one of those hosts, carrying within it the unborn celestial, Tiamut. For a celestial to grow, it requires immense energy drawn from intelligent life. But on Earth, deviants also existed, feeding on humans, halting their progress, and in turn, preventing the birth of a celestial. So Ereshkigal sent the Eternals to Earth to eliminate the deviants. When Earth's population reached a certain number, Tiamut would be ready to absorb all the energy from the planet's intelligent life and then emerge into existence. But this emergence would mean the total destruction of the planet. According to the laws of the Celestials, the end of one life is the beginning of another, and the birth of a new celestial can create entire new galaxies. The meaning of existence in the universe lies in the constant exchange of energy, an endless cycle of creation and destruction. Celestials can use the energy gathered from a planet to forge new suns, producing gravity, light, and heat to form entire new systems. Without celestials, the universe would fall into complete darkness, and all life would eventually perish. Through the endless ages, the supreme celestial Ereshkigal held the World Forge, where Ereshkigal designed and created the Eternals. The mission of the Eternals was to assist the new Celestials in completing their emergence, and after each emergence their memories would be erased and reset. And in fact, the Deviants were also creations of the Celestials, because each Celestial, when creating a planet of life, also created its predators. At first, the Deviants were sent to wipe out other predators so that intelligent life could flourish, but there was a flaw in their design, for the more they hunted, the more they evolved, until they themselves became new predators. The Deviants eventually spiraled out of control, so Ereshkigal redesigned and created the Eternals, entrusting them with the fate of protecting life on the planets. In the vastness of space, a massive square-shaped starship sailed forward, rushing past the blazing surface of the sun, heading toward a distant blue planet. At that moment, Earth was in the Stone Age, 7,000 years ago. Humans then were constantly hunted by deviants, and a young boy watched in horror as his father was devoured before his eyes, the deviant's next target being him. Just as the deviant lunged for the boy, a red beam of energy struck, knocking it back. The boy turned quickly and saw 5 figures descending from the sky. The man whose eyes fired searing beams had just saved him. He was Icarus, the strongest warrior of the Eternals. He possessed the most balanced abilities, his main attack being the high-temperature rays from his eyes, and he could soar through the sky against gravity, single-handedly killing a deviant with ease. The other Eternal warriors landing with him each wielded their own powers. Makari's speed was faster than lightning. Kingo could channel energy into direct attacks. Together, they joined forces to fight another deviant. Gilgamesh was the strongest in raw power, able to withstand the deviant's brute force head-on. Athena was the most valiant of warriors, swift and agile, her energy forming into any weapon, from the sturdiest shields to the sharpest spears. Their cooperation was unstoppable. With the death of the deviant, the surviving humans slowly emerged from their camp. They looked up to see a spaceship appearing in the sky. With its landing, several more figures followed and descended. There was Sprite, who could weave illusions and images, Phastos, master of advanced technology and craftsmanship, Druig, who could control the minds of others, and Ajak, the spiritual leader of the team. Her energy carried the power to heal. Finally, there was Circe, who could manipulate non-living matter, and she gently approached the boy, transforming a stone into metal. When the boy caught the dagger, it marked the very first contact between the Eternals and Earth. Their arrival would accelerate the progress of human civilization. When humans faced the assaults of deviants, the Eternal warriors fought to protect them. Humans were the most desirable prey for the deviants, and they attacked the settlements with savage force.
Hey, that one was...
But under the onslaught of the Eternals, the deviants were slowly eradicated, and humanity began to build its own civilization. 3,000 years ago, in the Age of Babylon, the Eternals once again claimed victory in battle. Ajak then used her power to communicate with Arishem, reporting the war against the deviants, but also telling it that humanity's civilization was unlike any other, and hoping it would reconsider the future of mankind. Afterward, Ajak returned to the ship's base, where Phastos was unveiling his new invention, a steam-powered engine to help humans farm faster. But Ajak disagreed, saying it interfered too much with humanity's natural progress. So Phastos had no choice but to present something else, a plow driven by cattle. Meanwhile, in the human settlement, Sprite used illusions to tell stories of other worlds, giving birth to the first myths and legends. Circe taught people farming and irrigation with her powers. The Eternals had fully integrated into human society. Over thousands of years, Icarus and Circe slowly developed feelings for each other. Before both their kin and humanity, they held the most sacred of weddings. Time passed, and the Eternals continued their war against the deviants. The deviants were gradually exterminated, but as humanity advanced, they began waging wars of their own, and during one mission, Athena suddenly suffered from Maud Weary, losing control of herself and striking her comrades until Gilgamesh subdued her. Maud Weary was caused by the weight of countless memories, slowly erasing one's sense of self, until one day it would wipe away identity completely, with the only cure being to erase the memories. This caused the first rift within the Eternals. Druig believed that they were no different from ordinary humans, just pawns in the plan of the Celestials. Seeing her people faltering in faith, Ajak made a decision. With the deviants finally gone, she disbanded the team, urging them to live among humanity, not as soldiers bound to orders, but as individuals seeking their own purpose in life. Time swiftly moves forward to 5,000 years later. The dagger from the beginning was now displayed in a museum as a relic. 10 eternal warriors had completely blended into human life. Circe chose to become a college teacher, and she also had a new boyfriend, Dane. While she was teaching, the classroom suddenly began to shake. The frightened students immediately searched for cover to hide. One student chose to crouch in the corner, but the statue on the wall began to fall with the tremors. Fortunately, Circe noticed the danger, and she used her power and time to turn the statue into sand. Sprite had always been living with Circe as well. That night, while walking home together, Dane, who was ahead, suddenly spotted a deviant in the river. Circe recognized at once that it was a deviant thought to be long gone. The deviant lunged straight towards Circe, and she quickly turned the ground beneath it into sand. After it fell into the trap, she hardened the sand into concrete to restrain its movements. But since Circe's powers were not highly offensive, the deviant broke free from the trap in just a few seconds. Seeing this, Circe decided to draw the deviant's attention to give Dane time to escape. As the deviant chased after her, Sprite rushed over and created illusions to confuse it. But the deviant quickly saw through the illusions and locked onto Sprite herself. Just as it was about to strike Sprite, the deviant was suddenly blasted away. It was Icarus who had arrived. The deviant pounced on Icarus, but the powerful impact sent the deviant crashing into an oncoming bus. As the bus was about to tip over, Circe turned it into petals. The driver safely crawled out of the petals unharmed. Icarus immediately launched his counterattack, firing beams from his eyes that injured the deviant, but they were soon shocked. For the deviant had gained the power to heal itself and displayed a high level of intelligence. Realizing it was no match, the deviant dodged Icarus's attacks and leapt into the water to escape. After this incident, Circe revealed her true identity to Dane and told him that the Eternals could never interfere in human conflicts. In the days that followed, earthquakes occurred all over the world. This was the reason Icarus had sought out Circe. The new deviants not only had healing abilities never seen before, but they no longer attacked humans, and instead went straight for the Eternals. Circe sensed that something major was about to happen to Earth, and they needed to gather all of their teammates. She decided their first step was to find their leader, Ajak. When they reached Ajak's home, Circe found her lifeless body in the backyard after searching around. The signs of death clearly showed it was a deviant's attack. It was the first casualty among the Eternals in their 7,000 years on Earth. The deviant they had fought earlier had gained its healing power by absorbing Ajak's energy. As they mourned, a glowing sphere rose from Ajak's body and flew directly into Circe. This was the artifact used to communicate with the Celestials, and now it had chosen Circe as Ajak's successor. Their next step was to find Kingo. He had become a famous movie star. After a spectacular dance performance, they set out again. heading into the desert. There they found the corpses of deviants, showing that an attack had happened here as well. Soon they located Gilgamesh and Thena. After Thena's mod weary began to affect her, Gilgamesh had been the one caring for her. Thena recalled fragments of memory, remembering that her previous planet had been destroyed after massive earthquakes, just like what had recently begun on Earth. Faced with this crisis, Circe finally managed to contact Arishem. She explained the situation on Earth, but Arishem showed no surprise, saying this was the sign of the coming emergence. When Earth's population reached a certain number, the celestial Tiamut would begin to awaken, and its birth would mean Earth's complete destruction. Hearing the truth, Circe could not contain her emotions, for she had already developed feelings for the life on Earth. She told everyone the truth about what was coming. They decided to quickly find the rest of the team to discuss how to face the looming crisis. Following clues, they traveled to the Amazon rainforest. Since their separation, Druig had been living here. When Circe invited him, he refused, unwilling to involve himself in anything related to the Celestials. Circe and Icarus discussed their next steps. But suddenly, they were attacked. The deviants had tracked them again and began attacking nearby humans. One of the deviants lunged directly at Circe. Luckily, Kingo heard the commotion and arrived in time. The deviant leapt onto the roof, its tail smashing the house with ease. Kingo fired energy blasts to distract it. Meanwhile, Circe evacuated the civilians into a church and reinforced the building with her powers. But then she was struck by the deviant's tail and sent flying. Icarus reacted swiftly to the sudden attack. As the most powerful warrior of the Eternals, he countered with ease, smashing the deviant to the ground, ripping off its wings and burning it with beams from his eyes. As this deviant was destroyed, another, even stronger deviant suddenly attacked Icarus. Thankfully, Gilgamesh arrived to assist, hurling the deviant away with his strength. Facing its assault, Gilgamesh stood firm, directly clashing head-on with the deviant and sending it flying. From its attack style, Icarus realized this was Crow, the deviant leader who had ambushed them before. While Gilgamesh confronted Crow, Thena's Madwayuri flared up again, and she lost control, striking out at Icarus. Gilgamesh quickly stepped in to stop her. Elsewhere, just as a deviant charged at Circe, Druig used his mind control to calm the humans, guiding them to fight together with their weapons. But rifles could not harm the deviant. Human bodies could not withstand its strikes. At this moment, Druig stepped forward himself. He rushed ahead to fight the deviant and buy more time for Circe. Circe got up and used her power to cut down the trees, and as the trees were about to fall, she transformed the wood into steel. The falling iron trees temporarily trapped the deviant. But the crisis was far from over. At Crow's call, more deviants surrounded Gilgamesh and the others. Crow ordered some of the deviants to split off and attack the camp. Icarus used his flying ability to quickly head to support them. Gilgamesh stayed behind alone to hold Crow back. Icarus flew quickly through the air toward the camp. When another deviant tried to block his way, he tore its wings apart with his laser beams and hurled it away. After breaking free from the deviant, he rushed straight down to the camp. At the camp, Kingo asked Sprite to hold the deviant back while he prepared for a lethal strike, launching a sneak attack. Just as everyone relaxed, another deviant lunged at Sprite, but it was stopped in time by the arrival of Icarus. He fired beams from his eyes and completely destroyed the deviant. But there was more than one deviant, and soon Icarus was ambushed by another, pinned to the ground and brutally attacked. His eye beams could not accurately hit the target. Seeing this, Circe turned a tree branch into a weapon and stabbed the deviant to draw its attention, but she herself was thrown into the water. The deviant immediately turned to attack Circe in the river. At this critical moment, Circe broke through the limit of her ability, and with a thunderous blast, she transformed the deviant into a twisted tree. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh struck Crow once again and sent him flying. But Crow's healing was too powerful. Even a broken arm could quickly recover. Seeing he could not overpower Gilgamesh, Crow suddenly lunged at Thena. Because Thena was struggling against her Madwayuri, she could not use her powers to fight back. Gilgamesh rushed to stop him, but this was Crow's trap. He seized the chance to restrain Gilgamesh and began absorbing his energy. As the energy flowed, Crow's body began to evolve, and soon he turned into a humanoid form, fully absorbing Ajax's memories and learning that Earth was about to face emergence, when all life would vanish with the planet. Crow then turned to Athena, knowing that if he absorbed her energy, he would evolve once more. Fortunately, Icarus arrives in time to support, temporarily scaring off Crow. But this battle took Gilgamesh's life, leaving him here forever. Watching the sacrifice of his former comrade, Druig finally agreed to Circe's plan and was willing to go with them. But he told Circe that his power alone could not stop the Celestial from awakening, so they went to find Phastos. As the team's technical core, he might have a solution. Phastos had already built a family of his own, yet with the encouragement of his partner, he chose to join Circe. Phastos carried the key to the starship Domo. When the Domo rose from the ground once more, they met their last teammate inside, Makari. For centuries, she had been living here. With all of them together again, Phastos finally devised a plan. Celestials were the strongest energy producers in the universe, and when they created the Eternals, they infused them with infinite cosmic energy that allowed their bodies to endure without end. Phastos prepared to craft a bracelet that could temporarily stop the regeneration of energy inside their bodies, letting them store up additional cosmic power. Since the deviants could absorb the energy of the Eternals, that meant their energy could also be shared with one another. If all their power was connected, then one of them could become incredibly strong. While everyone was discussing this, Icarus suddenly withdrew from the plan. The truth was that the day before Ajax's death, she had confided in Icarus, telling him that Tiamat would awaken in 7 days. But Ajax's thoughts had changed. Since Thanos snapped away half the universe, the emergence had been delayed. But Iron Man's final act brought everyone back. In these years, Ajax had seen the uniqueness of this planet, and she believed Earth should not be sacrificed for the Celestials' birth. She wanted the Eternals to unite again and stop it. This plan shattered Icarus's belief, for he could not go against the orders of the Celestials. He brought Ajax to the frozen lands. Centuries earlier, some deviants had been sealed beneath the ice. Now, due to the rising temperatures from the emergence, they broke free. Icarus allowed the deviants to kill Ajax to distract his teammates. He pushed Ajax into the depths, letting Crow end her life, then returned with her body. But he did not know that after absorbing Ajax's energy, Crow not only began to evolve himself, but also empowered his subordinates with even greater strength. Now the deviants turned to hunting the remaining Eternals. Events soon slipped out of Icarus's control. With the Earth's temperature rising rapidly, the celestial Tiamat was about to awaken. Makari set out, unleashing her full speed, and soon located the exact site of the emergence. Seeing their teammates determined to stop it, Icarus finally revealed himself, interrupting Phastos' test and confessing the truth. If they tried to stop the emergence, he would strike them down, just as he had with Ajax. With those words, Icarus turned and left. Sprite followed him closely. Kingo also believed that the emergence was their destiny, so he too chose not to take part in the plan. But the others did not give up. Phastos used the orb that connected to Arishem to forge a ring of energy. Then they donned their suits once more. Now only they could stand against the emergence. Phastos piloted the Domo toward the site of the emergence, but Icarus had already arrived. He rushed straight into the ship. Athena was already waiting for him there. Even though she was no match for Icarus, her task was only to buy enough time for Circe. Meanwhile, Makari had already brought Circe and Druig quietly beneath the volcano. With the bracelets activated, their powers quickly began to merge together. Druig started to use his ability, attempting to put Tiamat back into slumber. But with the circle activated, Icarus broke free of all obstacles and attacked his former teammates. Druig's ability was forced to stop. Icarus lifted Druig into the air and unleashed his laser beams without mercy. Then he completely destroyed the starship Domo. As the ship was about to crash, Makari rushed to rescue Athena and Phastos from inside. Seeing Icarus approach again, Makari used her speed to entangle him. Moving at high velocity, Icarus's beams could not hit her at all. But Makari lacked lethal force and could not truly harm Icarus. As she struck repeatedly, Icarus finally caught a weakness, grabbed her, and hurled her away. The volcano erupted again, and Tiamat was gradually awakening. Circe decided to approach the volcano to continue the attempt to stop it. Phastos and Athena quickly supported Makari. Together, they tried to hold off Icarus. But even against their attacks, Icarus handled it with ease, showing the full power of the Celestial's strongest warrior. At that moment, Crow suddenly appeared, launching a surprise strike that sent Icarus flying. They immediately shifted their focus to Crow, but when faced with Makari's storm of blows, Crow simply stomped hard, shattering it in an instant and sending both Athena and Makari flying. As Crow prepared to absorb Makari's energy, Phastos struck and knocked him away. Athena then stepped forward toward Crow. Icarus was about to continue stopping Circe, but he accidentally stepped into Phastos' trap, and with the energy ring in his hand, Phastos finally managed to restrain Icarus. Circe ran straight toward the volcano. There, she suddenly saw the figure of Ajax. She realized it was an illusion made by Sprite. As she tried to reason with her, Sprite stabbed her from behind. Then Sprite created multiple volcanic illusions, preventing Circe from locating the true site of the emergence. But Druig appeared suddenly, striking from behind and knocking Sprite down. Because of the earlier failure, now only Circe could complete the mission of stopping Tiamat. Inside the cavern, Athena faced Crow, who had fully evolved, and she was no match for this deviant. As the battle raged, her Mod Wyrie triggered again. Crow shifted into Gilgamesh's voice and drew close to her. As Crow began to absorb Athena's energy, Athena suddenly regained clarity and struck. Killing the deviant leader. As the volcano continued to erupt, the ground itself began to collapse. The sea becomes turbulent, building waves hundreds of feet high. Amid the ocean, as the crust fractures, a massive golden object gradually emerges from the water. 5 colossal pillars surrounded the volcano. They were the fingers of Tiamat. When Athena emerged from the cavern, she saw the colossal head of the Celestial rising like a mountain. As the land split further apart, golden ground surfaced beneath Circe's feet. She now stood in the palm of the Celestial's hand. Circe unleashed her power at once. Now, only she could stop the emergence. At that moment, Icarus broke free from the restraints. He flew rapidly toward Circe. But faced with the woman he loved most, memories of the life they had shared flooded back, their time together, and her words when they first saw Earth.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
And now Circe was protecting this goodness. In the end, Icarus chose to let go. Tiamat's hand had already risen fully above the ocean. The team united in thought again. As everyone's energy converges, Circe channels this immense power, and Tiamat's hand rapidly turns to stone. As Circe pushed her power to the absolute limit, the flame of life in Tiamat's eyes slowly went dark. With Tiamat returned to silence, Icarus was filled with regret for what he had done. He turned away from Circe and flew into space. He looked back one last time at the beautiful planet, then soared into the sun, vanishing within its fire. In the time that followed, Phastos returned to his family and repaired the Domo. Athena, Druig, and Makari set out together to find other Eternals. Sprite chose to give up her powers so she could finally grow up as a normal person. Circe and Kingo decided to remain on Earth. In the final moments, Circe walked with Dane beneath the setting sun. Suddenly the sky shifted, clouds split apart. Arishem appeared above Earth and took Circe away. Beyond the Earth, Arishem towered in the void.
You have chosen to sacrifice a Celestial for the people of this planet. I will spare them, but your memories will show if they are worthy to live. And I will return.
after speaking, it takes them away from Earth. Having lost his beloved, Dane finally decides to face his true identity. He opened the long-sealed chest of his family. Inside rested the ebony blade. Once he lifted the weapon, the Black Knight would return.